Batman, one of my favorite superheroes of all time. Actually, he's probably my personal favorite. For nearly 80 years of publication, he's seen movies, animated TV shows, live-action TV shows, and of course, video games. So we'll be looking at a video game that's based on the animated series that's based on the comics, or if you want to be technical, was based on the Tim Burton 1989 film. This is Batman Vengeance. Batman Vengeance was developed by Ubisoft, a company most famous these days for the Assassin's Creed franchise, which has many games out now. Oh boy, if I ever do that series, that's going to be an undertaking. But let's start with the story first. Skip to this time in the video if you don't want to be spoiled. So the story begins with a bound and gagged woman about to be blown up by a bomb. Batman rescues the woman, whose name is Mary Flynn. Turns out Joker has kidnapped her son and will kill him unless she pays him $5 million. Batman returns to Batgirl in the Batcave, who tells him that Mary and Toby didn't really exist before then, so obviously something is wrong. Batman later finds Joker holding Toby hostage and is threatening Mary, and you know what, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but Mary is really Harley Quinn in disguise, which Batman should have known. I mean, just listen to her. Batman and Batgirl should have immediately put two and two together, but they don't know until Toby turns out to be a doll.
You blind as your namesake, do-gooder moron!
Yeah, thank you. Joker denies Harley the kill because
nobody kills the bat but me. Like so.
Which is perfectly in character for him. But Batman ends up defeating Joker, but
give me your hand.
Seems like old times, eh, Bats? You, me, a vat of chemicals?
You're slipping, Joker.
Oops. All right, Bats. You win.
yeah, not sure why anybody would buy this. This happens to Joker all the time. The second episode deals with Mr. Freeze as the villain. Somebody sent him a videotape of something called Promethium, but he takes it personally and goes after the scientist Dr. Isaac Evers. There is not much to say about this, but Batman discovers Isaac Evers is lying about his financial backers, discovering that the Joker was funding his research, which is another hint that further expounds this mystery. Batman defeats Mr. Freeze and leaves him frozen. That's all she wrote for this villain. The third episode deals with Poison Ivy blackmailing politicians and the mayor for money and power, but Batman puts a quick end to that. There's one weird scene where Batgirl tells Batman that Harley is scared of Ivy, even though the two are good friends and Ivy would never hurt her. The fourth episode is told mostly in flashback, where Batman investigates some of the Joker's men acting on their own, but he's framed for injuring Commissioner Gordon, which seems hard to believe. Everybody had their eyes on him, and clearly should have known that Batman didn't throw the Batarang. But it seems like every superhero game from that time had to have a police chase scene. With every cop in the city looking for him, Batman is an easy target, but he knows Harley Quinn is connected to all this somehow. So Batman goes in disguise, which is basically Bruce Wayne with a scar over his eye. This whole narrative purpose is for Batman to discover that Joker isn't really dead, shock of all shocks. So far, I've enjoyed the story, despite my nitpicks. The episodic approach allows time for each villain, and it definitely plays out like an overarching mystery, which is what we expect from the world's greatest detective. It flows naturally from point to point. I had to summarize because it's very plot-driven. It feels just like an episode of the animated series. So for that, as I said, I've enjoyed the story so far, but wait till we get to the ending, because that's where it gets interesting. Now we've got the rest of the game to uncover, so let's begin. Now for the graphics and presentation. The game looks very good for its time. I just got a new Framemeister and it manages to upscale the graphics off my Nintendo Gamecube quite nicely. I might go back and replay some of the games I've done before to get better quality off them. I must say, it looks quite nice. I love this thing. The FMVs look amazing for their time. It uses the new Batman Adventures art style from the revamped animated series. The in-game graphics look pretty good as well. Batman's character model is really nice. I like the way his cape moves as he runs and walks, even though his running animation is a little goofy. The voice acting is amazing. What do you expect when they used the cast from the animated series, which had one of the best voice actor casts ever put to animation? So that's all I can say. For its time, it's pretty good. Now let's cover the gameplay. The gameplay is divided into 5 sections. Here we go. Batman moves quite nicely. He can glide like you'd expect Batman to be able to do. I like the way his cape opens up. It's just like how Batman would glide. Jumping is nice and responsive as well. The levels are very linear. You can go out of your way to find hidden items, but I've only found one such instance. So mostly you're going for rooftops, so a lot of platforming is involved. It's easy enough to get the hang of. Batman can also do this cape shield thing that I never found myself using much. By pressing the action button, Batman will hug and stick to the wall. It's needed for scripted parts mostly. I wouldn't have minded being able to sneak around enemies with it. You can contact Batgirl on your communicator. She mostly serves to give you plot updates or can give you hints on where to go. At one point, you have to rescue her from one of Poison Ivy's thugs on the train. You have to get health packs to regain your health, which Batman makes a weird noise whenever he gets one. Now let's cover the other part of the gameplay, the combat. By pressing the B button to punch, you can get into a sparring match with the enemy. It's pretty simple, really. In cases where you have 2 opponents, the other will just hang back and let you fight one-on-one. For later enemies, you really gotta learn how to block their attacks, because if you go in with fist swinging, you will be punished for it. As the game progresses, you can unlock power moves, which allows Batman to do a more special, unique attack. The thing about enemies is, once you knock them down, you have to make sure you handcuff them. Otherwise, they will get back up and potentially come back to pester you. Unfortunately, cuffs aren't laid about all over the place, and you only get 3 when you pick up a box, so you gotta be selective about which enemies you want to cuff. You can sneak up behind enemies and cuff them without a fight, if you have cuffs. Now, for the next part, your gadgets. Whenever you use your batarangs, for example, you go into first-person view. A bat insignia will turn red. That's when you can fire your batarangs. You also get access to electric batarangs, which come in handy for Poison Ivy's thugs. Takes them out in one blow. You have access to smoke bombs, which I didn't use much. Your bat grapple is used for various situations. It's pretty self-explanatory. You also have access to remote charges, which I'll get into later. You have nets and stunners, but you can only use these gadgets during the SWAT chase level. Which actually makes sense, considering Batman is trying to not hurt the police. There's also free-falling segments where Batman has to dive after a person before they hit the ground. You can speed up or slow down, but considering it's a race to get to the person in time, why would you ever want to slow down? There's not too many of these, thankfully. Then there's the vehicle portions of the game. You control either the Batmobile or the Batwing.
Batplane.
No, I'm pretty sure it's called the Batwing, not Batplane. What's up with that? The segments are chase levels, which means you have to shoot various obstacles in your way. What's annoying is that in the Batwing level, you have to try to not get hit by these billboards, and as the Batmobile, you have to take tight turns. If you don't make them, you miss. Fortunately, the checkpoints for these levels are pretty forgiving. They look visually quite good, so I guess I'll give them a pass. Now for the bosses. The first boss is against the Joker. First you fight him on a wrecking ball. He's pretty easy, but I find his banter enjoyable.
All the bridges falling down, falling down, falling down. All the bridges falling down. I dead Batsy.
Then you fight him hand to hand, and he's again pretty easy. I mean, Joker's not really a physical match for Batman, but it's nice to be able to fight him. Mr. Freeze's boss fight is also a keep-away boss since you can't fight him directly. This is where the remote charge comes in handy. Finally, there's the Poison Ivy boss, which is actually really easy. You can finish this boss in less than a minute once you know what you're doing. Now for the final level. Skip to this time in the video if you don't want to be spoiled. So Batman realizes the Joker is planning something with toxic gas and heads to where the Joker's blimp is. He comes face to face with the Joker, who pretty much explains the whole joke of the plan.
I'm not dead, and Gotham is. The punchline? It's all your fault, Batsy.
Only the Joker would find that funny. So Batman goes and disconnects the valve pretty simply, actually. So then you have to fight a big fat clown with Harley cheering him on. He's pretty easy. Harley gets squashed flat, and Batman makes it onto the blimp where he comes face to face with the Joker once again. Another boss fight against the Joker, but he's pretty easy once again, since you have more health, your moves are stronger, and you've learned to be a better fighter. Once Joker goes down, he drops the key to unlock the cockpit. Once you get inside, what follows is a short puzzle where Joker pretty much gives away what you have to do to shut down the blimp. Batman deactivates the blimp and goes back to the Joker. He's going to take him to Arkham, but Joker decides to kill himself. But Batman won't let that happen, so you get one final freefall segment. But this time the Joker fights back, but there's not much to say about it. So Batman saves Joker and blows up the blimp. The villains are all in Arkham, and Batman is cleared from injuring Gordon, so it's a happy ending. But this is where I would wrap up the review, but we're not done yet. Now I'm going to quick review the Game Boy Advance version off my Game Boy player. Haven't used this thing in a while. The story follows the same plot. You have 4 different levels. The Batman levels, which are a 2D side-scroller, which provides some challenge because it's very trial and error, but I don't mind these levels. They're just simple good old-fashioned 2D platforming and beating up the bad guys. You have the Robin levels, which take a top-down perspective. These are mostly used for puzzle solving. Kind of annoying because it's hard to maneuver around obstacles. There's the Batmobile levels, which are annoying in this version because you have a timer, which means you have to avoid stops and occurrences, and requires a lot of memorization. The Batwing levels are just as challenging. You have to know when to shield and when to fire to make sure you don't crash into anything. It's a pretty short game too. I beat it in just over 2 hours. Not a bad game, very reminiscent of early NES games, give it a pass. Overall, Batman Vengeance is pretty solid. It's pretty decent for its time, and it's a solid tie-in to the show. If you see it at a local store or on Amazon, and if you're a big Batman the Animated Series, or DCAU fan, give this game a look. It's a good way to kill a few hours. Next time will be a Batman game I'm not particularly looking forward to, but I've been meaning to do it for a while. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, I'm signing off. If you liked the video, please hit that subscribe button. See you later.